Hey, it's Gemma, and I'm here to talk to you today about inclination potions under the hood. What goes on when you take those potions, and how do the values change? So, we already know that if you look at your pawn's profile, you can see what the inclinations are. If you sit in the knowledge chair, you can see the third inclination. That's as far as the game lets you see it. And so basically, people take a variety of potions. Well, I should say different sequences of potions to manipulate those. So we're going to look at some of the different ones that are out there, as well as the one that I've used for forever, and decide what works best for Claire. So let's get into it. So I've always used the 9753 because it was a method that was out there on PlayStation 3 when I began playing the game, and people figured out how these things worked, and so I've used them. I've also tested them. I know that when I take it, um, I end up with a specific set of values, and by that I mean numbers. So we're going to look with the aid of something called dinput8.dll. That's the mod that I use to look at inclinations and test different combinations of potions and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to use today. Um, and right there, that's going to give me a view of my pawn and her inclinations. So like I said, she's a utilitarian challenger, and how I actually set her up was to be utilitarian challenger mitigator scather. So let's look at, after several rounds through a bitter black isle plus doing a lot of quests, what's happened to those values. So she has remained challenger, um, and her utilitarian is in the second slot, just like it says when I look at her profile. But a couple of other numbers are quite a bit different than the potion order that I took them in. And namely, a mitigator is 542 and a scather is 779. There's ways that these numbers change, and I'm not going to get into that as far as like what goes on in battle, the pawns that you hire, in other words, the composition of your party, the enemies that you face, the actions of the player in the game, like how often you press the gamepad, things like go and come and help, and also things that I do in battle, such as perhaps pick things up, or um, like in the middle of battle, or if there's a grace period and I go and I pick up all the wake stones, and then there's another grace period and I pick up more, and my pawn's with me, and that all of those actions affect the inclinations of the pawn. So I'm not here to discuss any of those things in detail. I'm just here to talk to you about like different ways of using potions and the numbers and what's going to be best for Claire here. So we're going to use the one that I've used and just watch what happens to the numbers as I take them. I'm going to pause after I take the first three so you can just kind of see what happens after I just take three. So I want this one in the 4 slot, and that's why I'm taking it in this position. Again, this is not a way for me to say to you, you must take them in, these particular ones if your pawn is a ranger, because that's what Claire is. It's up to you what you want your pawn to be and how it best suits your party and your party composition and all of those sorts of things. All right, so after taking just 3 of Scather, you can see that it's been promoted to the primary slot. And if I looked in the menu, I would see that she is now a Scather Challenger, and Utilitarian is now in the 3rd slot. Nexus is still in the 4th slot, but it has dropped quite a bit, as Acquisitor has as well. All right, let's continue. I wish I could do count imitations here because they'd be perfect, but I can't do the count. And what I should get when I'm done is 100, 800, 600, and 550. All right, so I've done the 9753 method, and sure enough, I have her challenger is 1000, her utilitarian is 800, her mitigator is now 600, and her scather is 550. And then Nexus and Inquisitor have gone to like the neutral position, which is 500. All right, so let's try another method here, and then so to reset and then try a different method. This different method was posted in the Pawn Hub, which is PlayStation 4 communities, as a way someone said that they kept their pawns' inclinations locked in position for longer. Of course, this was all anecdotal. There was no, oh, I played X amount of hours doing X amount of things. They just sort of threw that out there, and so I'm just here to show what happens when you do use them in this particular order and this particular amount. And this method is the 14-10-5-3, I think, method. I might be off by one, like one might, instead of 5 it might be 6, or the 3 might be 4, but essentially the main one they were hitting on was the 14-10. So we're gonna do that method, and I'm gonna grab stuff out of my inventory here to make sure I have enough.
We can see. Have your pick. Any, or will it be today? Will it be have your pick?
And we're just going to look at the numbers empirically so we can see what happens when I use this method. Yep, it's, you're taking potions. What are you going to do? And just to let you know, for players that are wondering about that guy in yellow, that's Jonathan, and he sells these potions, but he doesn't show up here until after you've done the quest, A Rude Awakening. And then he shows up, and then you can purchase potions. Now, you can also, after you purchase potions, you can actually go to the Black Cat and you can duplicate them. And so, and they work the same. So you don't have to spend Rift Crystals to buy an inordinate amount. And that will also change up some things for you. All right, so let's look at the values now of what's happened. All right, as expected, Nexus and Inquisitor have dropped to that like neutral slot of 500. And then Challengers in the primary, just like I wanted. However, Utilitarian is 675, so there's a big gap there. It's just a number, but what's happened here is that Mitigator and Scather have tied at 550, so they're kind of in the 3rd/4th spots. They're still above Nexus and Inquisitor. All right, so that's the 14-10-5-3 5-3 method. And we are now going to try another method. All right, back to the drawing board, and this method is now going to be the 5-5-5-5. And we're going to go ahead and make sure that I have enough of everything and that I take them in the right order.
We can see. Have your pick. What will it be today? What will it be today?
All right,
What will it be today? Have your pick. Come again, sir.
we're ready to go. All right, in the order I want them. Let's do this again. Remember, this isn't a judgment on any one way. It's just a way to empirically look at the different combinations that are out there. And I'm going to pick what's best for Claire. All right, so we're done. And again, I want her to be a utilitarian challenger, mitigator, Scather, with Scather kind of the placeholder. And we can see that challenger is now at 1,000, utilitarian is 900, mitigator is 750, Scather is at 600, and it's above Nexus and Inquisitor. So seems like a pretty good deal. All right, let's try one last one that I've used, particularly when I'm leveling up as I'm going through the game and I start to see things happen with my pawn, but I don't have a whole lot of rift crystals on me and I don't want to spend a whole lot of rift crystals, so I've used this method too to set up for my pawn, and I like it as well, so we're going to do that one too. Last one, I promise.
We can see. Have your pick. What will it be today? What will it be today? Have your pick. In, come again.
All right, so this is the 3-3-3-3 method, and we're going to use it. I just want to make sure they're in the right order. All right, here we go. So back to the beginning again, and I'm just going to go through the, taking the potions. Last set, I promise. All right. So let's look at the final results of this one. And over here, what we have is it's slightly different, but you can see that what I have for primary is 1,000. My secondary is now the utilitarian. It's 950. Then my tertiary is 850 and my quaternary or fourth placeholder is 750. So you've seen 4 different ways to take potions, and I imagine that I could do a whole lot more, like 1 1 1 1, 2 2 2 2, 5 3 2 1, just any combination you can think of, and it changes the value significantly. What I was interested in is making sure that the numbers of uh, certain inc- inclinations that my pawn might, you know, they might creep forward, that they stay tamped down. And some of that is on me too and my actions within the game. So that is a nice explanation right there of like the different kinds of potions, what the values represent, where when you take these different potions in order, what changes under the hood as far as the number values go. And it's up to you to decide which one you like best for your pawn, depending on where you are with the game. So that's it for today for Gemma Lady. And thanks. And if you like the content, give a thumbs up and a like and all that good stuff. And we'll see you around. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Bye.